No matter your status or wealth, you are bound by an unavoidable biological reality. You will age, get sick, and eventually your body will fail. A staggering amount of our modern effort and collective wealth is dedicated entirely to delaying or ignoring these absolute physical certainties. In the 5th century BC, Siddhartha Gautama set out to find a tangible solution to this specific problem. He did not approach life's ultimate tragedy as a mystic offering magical salvation. He operated as an inquisitive human being, trying to accurately diagnose a universal existential disease. Gautama was born a crown prince, living in absolute luxury. His family intentionally shielded him from the very existence of suffering or decay. At age 29, he stepped outside the palace walls for the first time. There, he encountered extreme poverty, the ravages of sickness, and the finality of death. This experience triggered a profound crisis, as he realized that his immense wealth offered zero protection against his own inevitable biological breakdown. He immediately left his family and his royal court to discover if life could be worthwhile despite its unavoidable end. Confronting our absolute lack of control over decay is the necessary, painful first step toward finding a cure for existential dread. Gautama's initial attempts focused on mystical meditation, but these states only provided a temporary happiness that vanished the moment his practice stopped. At age 35, he reached a breakthrough: the realization that our existential disease is actually composed of two distinct layers. The first layer is bodily pain. These are the cuts, illnesses, and physical failures that no living creature can escape. The second layer is mental grief. This is the reflex of fear, anxiety, and sorrow that the human brain adds on top of physical reality. By isolating mental grief as an optional reaction, he proved that a person can find a cure for suffering even while inhabiting a dying body. Maintaining this psychological breakthrough required a strict, structured daily regimen. Because this system of mental training needed to be preserved and passed down precisely through generations, it developed the institutional architecture of a religion. These precise instructions for living were codified in the foundational texts of the Pali Canon. These texts demand sila, or morality, a prerequisite set of ethical behaviors requiring generosity and the avoidance of harm. Lay people practice this morality daily through merit-making, supporting the monastic community with basic necessities like food and medicine. Ethical behavior creates a peaceful, wholesome mind. Without this baseline of calm, deep mental concentration becomes impossible. These religious structures provide the practical infrastructure for the mind. They create the stable environment required for deep psychological healing to take place. The specific technique used to dismantle mental grief is called vipassana, or insight meditation. The practice involves focusing intensely on the present stream of experience, for example, the simple rising and falling of the abdomen during breathing. The practitioner observes that all feelings, whether pleasant or painful, arise and pass away naturally. This neutral observation breaks the brain's habit of attaching to joy or panicking over pain. This process systematically alters how the mind interacts with its own experiences. By seeing the suchness of reality without filters, a practitioner begins to untangle human consciousness from the reflexive terror of decay. Normally, when we feel an itch, our immediate reflex is to scratch it to escape the discomfort. A trained mind handles the itch of life, whether it is physical pain, loneliness, or sadness, by sitting still, observing the discomfort, and letting it fade without reaction. This builds a wholesome mind, so resilient that it naturally suppresses states of anger, frustration, and despair. We can never escape the physical decay Gautama witnessed, but this structured framework gives anyone the power to dismantle their own mental suffering.